Hello and welcome to Console Shock, Retro and Modern Gaming Chat with me, Trev, and as always, Stu. And Stu, you're very, very proud today.
I am.
Probably a little bit on the smug side as well, because you, well, we've talked about it a little bit before, that it was something that's coming up for you in terms of a purchase. I don't know if you actually had bought it at that point, but you've now got a personal IBM compatible. Hopefully, it's IBM compatible.
It's
IBM compatible.
It's fully IBM compatible. 86 series processor.
Fully compliant with the Personal System 2 IBM specification, PS2.
That's right. Yeah, it's got a. Anyway.
You've got a gaming PC. You've got a gaming PC.
Yeah, you just spoiled my thunder there, Trev. You just spoiled my thunder.
What I do best, mate.
I've gone and got myself, after years of wanting one and always having an excuse why I shouldn't buy one. I've actually gone out and bought myself a gaming computer, which I'm on now recording this. So I don't know if I may sound a little bit different, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I'll sort of, I'll go through the pros of it and then, the cons of it and
yeah,
things
I've got
like
a few
that.
questions for you that I'd probably hit you with, to be honest.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
I'll probably take us through a lot of it anyway. Yeah, I mean, I've everyone knows it. Listen to this podcast as obviously yourself would. Sort of PC is my main platform, really. That's not to say I do that exclusively. I don't at all. Probably the console I played the most in the last gen was the Switch. It was my favorite console of the last gen. But normally, if I was going to play anything that wasn't the Switch, it would end up being the PC. Would kind of be my default. I've had a gaming laptop. I've actually sold it recently, so I don't have it anymore. But I had a gaming laptop I've had some form of a gaming laptop for the past sort of 8-9 years. Going back to the sort of early mid 2010 or late mid 2010 or early mid 2010.
So do you actually have a gaming PC at the moment?
Well, at the moment I've got my Steam Deck, which is obviously a handheld gaming PC, and then I am getting the Asus ROG or ROG. I don't know what the correct way to pronounce that bit is. Ally. So that'll be my other handheld gaming PC. I kind of feel like, people might think it's a bit absurd to have both of those, but on one side, that's the Asus is kind of, my access to Windows sort of PC gaming. So that'll be like Game Pass, really. That'll be mainly be useful. Obviously, I've got Game Pass Ultimate. In fact, I nearly stopped my subscription to that because the Steam Deck, a lot of those Game Pass games, I ended up buying a lot of the ones I would play, ones that were cheap. So I thought, okay, maybe I'm not going to really need it. But now now I'm able to sort of dive back into Windows on in a way that I'm really excited about. Obviously, I've absolutely fallen in love with the Steam Deck, and I've always preferred handheld gaming generally. It's going to be great having the Asus. I know the reviews have been out, and there's downsides to having Windows on it, but it's going to be great to play Forza, games that come with Game Pass, and even things like, we've talked that FIFA 23 doesn't work on the Steam Deck, probably never will. But that works fine. That's also with Game Pass. So all those grey areas that the Steam Deck doesn't really offer a solution to, the Asus will. That's the
obviously
idea.
you have both of the machines, and to me the ROG Ally sort of answers all the questions or the problems that I had with the Steam Deck.
Probably.
Back, 6 months ago. But for me, I can see you getting the ROG Ally, and then the Steam Deck will kind of be pushed to the side, because the ROG Ally, you can install the Steam store on there and play all of your Steam games. You can play Game Pass games, Epic store games, GOG games, and just run them natively, not a problem. And I've seen loads of reviews for this, and what was it? Digital Foundry did an amazing review of it in the last couple of days, and it's quite interesting. It's still, I still don't think these portable gaming PCs are in their final form.
Oh, hell no.
But and I think something where it's coming out. Then 6 months later, something that's twice as powerful is coming out. Then 6 months later, something's twice as powerful as that thing is then coming out again.
Yeah.
I think it's still. Do you remember, like, you got an iPhone 1 and then the iPhone 2? I'll get the iPhone 2. The processor's twice as fast. It's got 3 cameras. It's got this. It's got that. That's, I feel, the stage we're at the moment. So I think what I'm getting at, do you think you'll, put the old Steam box away the Steam Deck away in a box and not play it again, or?
I might put the Steam box in a deck. I'm not sure yet, but no, I see what you mean. I mean, in my mind, I kind of feel like the Steam Deck is going to use it probably a fair bit, because I might keep it as the emulation machine. A lot of my emulation stuff is now working on that really well. I don't really have a desire to set it up on another handheld. And it's only a case of me just reaching for the Steam Deck and getting it, bang, I'm back into emulation land. I haven't got to plug in another device particularly and go through a rigmarole. So it'll be for that at the very least. But there's also games that I'm games from like the Xbox 360 gen, maybe sort of PS4, Xbox One gen as well, that I could dip in and out of, that run really well on the Steam Deck, and obviously I would run on the Steam Deck and don't have any issues with compatibility. I'll probably use it for that. Also, like, it's almost like another amount of storage capacity that's available to me. I could be like, well, okay, I've got a game that I could play on the Ally, but I know it runs well on the Steam Deck because it's from several years ago. Do I want to take up X amount of gig on the Ally when maybe I want to download, Forza Motorsport on that and play that, which will run better on that than it would on a Steam Deck. So yeah, in my mind, that's how it's probably going to work, and I'll just have them concurrently, because I still dip in and out of my Switch, despite having the Steam Deck. Because although you can argue that, well, the Nintendo games you can't really, you can emulate Switch games, but I haven't really dipped into that. A lot of the games that I want to play, I bought on the Switch anyway. So that hasn't fallen by the wayside. I mean, what surprised me with the Steam Deck is I didn't think it would take over everything, and it pretty much has. I don't often really dive into another. The only real things that I dive into these days are retro stuff outside of the Steam Deck. I haven't fully dived into like any current gen exclusive games. And the Steam Deck has been pretty good with the cross-gen games. I'm hoping now. I mean, the Ally isn't really at the same level of performance of a PS5, but you'd still be able to play some of those next-gen exclusive games at a 30 FPS, 720p kind of level, which is fine for me on like a handheld. But I probably won't upgrade again or get another. It probably would be a PC handheld. Would be the next thing I would get. After the Ally. I probably would wait till I get one where they're like literally like, oh, this is literally a PS5 in your hands now. It has got that level of performance. That might not be 2 or 3 years yet. That'll be the next time I'll make a jump. I don't think I'll really need to do anything now for a couple of years. Now I've got kind of Windows and Steam OS kind of covered.
So I've been watching a few of the videos on there about the ROG Ally, and what it's generally sort of the term is that it has all these different sort of power modes, and it's basically if you want 1080p 60 frames a second, almost the best performance out of it, and it's not plugged in, it's going to be, you're going to get an hour out of the battery from it. And there's also other profiles where actually if you turn it down to, I don't know, the economy mode or whatever it's called, then games run sort of very, very sort of slowly, like a slideshow at 720p. So is there, I mean, I'm trying to think of sort of benefits really for the Steam Deck. I mean, that seemed to have better sort of power management than,
well, there's quite a lot, I would say. I mean, you touched upon it already. It is a little bit better at the very low power stuff, like going down from 15 watts down to 10 and 9 and 8, up down to like 5 or something crazy. So if you're playing, 2D old games or emulation of old consoles, you can really dial down the power very low, and you'll get hours, potentially 7-8 hours out of the battery. But also Steam OS. Steam OS is very lightweight. It's perfect for a handheld. You can navigate your game library with the, with the controller, with the controls on the Steam Deck perfectly. And the trackpads are really great. I mean, I do dip into desktop mode to mess around with stuff on the Steam Deck, and the trackpads pretty much cover me without needing to plug in a keyboard and a mouse fairly well. I mean, initially they felt janky, but as I've gotten used to it, I'm pretty good with them. And I mean, I haven't played any mouse-focused games using the trackpad, so I can't comment on that. But some people swear by them. They can play, SimCity or something with just the trackpads on the Steam Deck, and the Asus doesn't have those. So navigating Windows, I think, would have been a bit better with an equivalent trackpad setup. So that's the one thing that I think I will miss. I mean, the battery thing's the big thing, but to be honest, I know that I'll be playing it most of the time. I'll be playing it at home. I don't take my Steam Deck on my commute. I don't really want to play games on my commute these days. If it was longer, I probably would. I mean, I'm only on the Elizabeth line, just one train for like half an hour. So I'm quite happy to listen to a podcast or some music, in that time, or read something.
So what about if you went on a long flight? Let's say, I don't know, like 4 or 5 hours somewhere. Could you use it and then come with a separate battery? Or
I mean, I've got some previous with that kind of example. So I think I've told you that I went to I've been to Manchester a few times in the last couple of years, actually. But the last time I went by train, and it's a couple of hours. And if you've done it yourself, Stu, from Euston.
I have, yeah.
It's a pretty straightforward journey. Also, one pretty comfortable train. But the sort of train that I got, it has got power jacks, but I didn't use them. I had my Steam Deck with me, and I was playing Jedi Fallen Order, so not like a super low power, emulated game or basic 2D game from years ago. A fairly modern game, kind of PS4 level game, and I was able to sort of have it. I don't think I played it through the whole journey. I think it takes about 2 hours on the train, and I think for about an hour and a half I was playing that Jedi Fallen Order, and obviously it lasted fine. I don't think I had much battery after that. It was down to the last 20%, but for something like that, it was absolutely fine. I mean, if I wanted to play like Dead Space Remake or like a Returnal on like on the Asus Ally, so you'd need to really crank the battery. It would be to 30 watt mode is what you'd probably want. To be honest, I probably would have a power bank, or I'd try and get near a jack. Hopefully, my seat would be near a jack. I know you can request those when you buy a ticket. But to be honest, I had my Switch with me, because obviously these devices are so small now. You can just throw them in your bag. It's not like the olden days where if you want to take your Atari Lynx and your Game Boy, you've really got to think about how well that'll fit with the rest of your sort of junk. But you don't really have to think. Things are a lot smaller now. So with the Steam Deck and the Switch together, I knew I wasn't really going to ever run out of juice and be left caught short wanting to play a game somewhere. So yeah, I'm not too bothered. If I guess you're saying a long haul flight, you could probably mitigate that. You could potentially, I'd probably take a big chunky USB.
Because I think I found there. To give my, I've been to Malaysia a few times. It's where my partner's from, but so and what I find is that I'll take the Switch, I'll make sure it's fully charged, and actually I sort of get like fatigue from it, and I don't think I've ever run the battery down from 100% to at the most I'll do 2 or 3 hours, and it's like, oh my god, I'm on the flight for 12 hours. Will the battery last the whole journey? And actually, I might want to, play it for 2 or 3 hours, maximum. And then actually, I might want to watch something I've downloaded on my phone. Then I might watch a film or something. And it's kind of like, and I've sort of seen people, you see them on the on flights with a sort of a gaming laptop, and they're sort of sitting there and they're playing some sort of game, and and you see them playing it for the whole time, and it's like, I don't know if I could quite do that, being in a confined space playing that. Maybe I could, and I think I'll get a little bit uncomfortable. So Maybe that's me
Yeah,
when I'm getting older. I don't
the
know.
one thing, yeah, I mean, they're quite, they're still slightly unwieldy, even a thin and light laptop. I mean, I found out the problem I had with my very thin MSI gaming laptop was it thermal throttled so much that it kind of negated like the performance of the graphics card. I could play games at 4K, but it would cause the graphics card to heat up so much that it would thermal throttle it, and it would cause the frame rates to stay at about 40 frames a second, when it could, in theory, do 60 on like a football game like FIFA or Pro Evo at 4K. But it couldn't, because the fans would go absolutely at their maximum, and it would throttle the processor down or the graphics card down. So if I took the graphics card out and wired it in externally in some way, I'll be able to get all the maximum performance out. So actually, a thin and light laptop isn't often a good solution. But with like my Steam Deck, I've got a case that has a kickstand on it, and sometimes you could put it on the kickstand like the tray in front of you on a train, and you can just have an Xbox One control and you could play it like that without necessarily needing to have it in your hands. That's kind of a cool way to play it, and it's still a bit of a smaller setup than a laptop that you're trying to get on your lap or on your tray, your flip down tray. So it works better, and even in that scenario.
I think you might have just answered my question there, Trev. I thought you were going to give me lots of questions, but I've got questions for you. Is obviously now the ROG Ally, is I don't know how much it is, £600-700, something like that. Which, to be honest with you, actually seems like really good value for money. For what you get in the portability of it.
For a gaming PC, which is a decent performance,
1080p screen and so on, and that's another one of the things they commented on. But then, potentially, I think, could you gone down the route of going for not a budget, but what type of gaming laptop could you got for let's say £700? And I probably don't know the answer to this, but potentially could you have got a gaming laptop with better performance? And
you probably would have, but I wouldn't say it would have been dramatically better. So then you really have to ask yourself, do I want super portability versus something that you're going to be tethered to in some fashion, of it's either to be sat on your lap or plugged into a TV. I thought it's so much easier to have. I much prefer you playing on a handheld now. My gaming laptop was kind of permanently docked. I didn't find it hugely comfortable to game with it on my laptop because, again, you're still kind of using like a separate controller, and it's very hot. They get very hot on your lap. You could put it on a tray and do all kinds of things, but you're not unless you're commuting a lot, and that's really like you go do a lot of business trips and things. Then I can see the real use of it. But I just liked a portable gaming machine that I could take with me. And at the time, the only way you could do that with a PC is a gaming laptop. There were sort of the early, hints of what is now, the portable handheld gaming PC, like the GPD Win. Those were knocking around in the mid 2010s, the early versions of them. And there was like weird, like janky, like Chinese Android-based handhelds that Steve Benway would review all the time. The GXD 9000 and all things like that, which are really just meant to run emulators, not really for AAA games. So yeah, that was the only solution at the time. But now with these gaming handhelds, it's completely displaced any need for a laptop for me. And if I want it to be like a desktop, because we have our main TV in the living room, and if Tina's not my girlfriend, just doxed her there by calling her a name. If she's not using our main TV, I could just plug a standard USB-C hub with a HDMI on it, into which I've done with my Steam Deck a lot. And because it docks a lot better now. When I first got it, it would glitch out and do all kinds of stuff unless you restart it.
It's improved a lot, has it?
It's improved a lot now, where you could you would just plug it straight in when it's even during a game, and it will just splash it onto the TV screen, and the sound will work and everything. There is the occasional glitch, but nothing major like it was at first. So if I want it to be a normal TV based experience, I can have it be that. And you've got little tricks you can do now. Okay, you're going to be games really on those handheld PCs, and you're kind of aiming for 720p and 1080p at a push. Obviously, that will get better as the years go by. But you got DLSS and checkerboard rendering techniques. You can use that magic to kind of make the image look a bit better on a bigger screen. Although you could argue if you sat far away, it might not be too dissimilar anyway than if you're holding a handheld up to your face.
What was talking about sort of gaming on your sort of TV? I think a couple of weeks ago, what's his name? Metal Jesus Rocks did a video. He got sent some sort of dodgy
Jesus.
Jesus, Metal Jesus, Mel Jesus. He was sent a sort of knockoff, not a knockoff PC. It was a real PC from AliExpress. It's about sort of £400-500 maybe.
Oh, you're not going to get knockoffs from AliExpress.
No, you wouldn't.
Of course not.
And that's a little sort of PC that's probably, let's say, the size of about sort of maybe like size of a Wii,
as in not like a handheld, as in like a normal kind of desktop, but a very tiny one.
Exactly. And the whole idea of that is, you plug it into your TV or your gaming monitor, and it's a really sort of small little sort of computer. And I think the idea of it is it's for I think in China they play a lot of those MOBA games and League of Legends and that type of stuff, and it's kind of perfect for that. But he wanted to play sort of a lot of the games that you want to play is Xbox 360, early Xbox One games from that sort of genre or that sort of age. And I don't think if you put in the latest that Harry Potter game or something like that, it will probably really, really struggle unless you turned everything down to low and low. So in reality, and I actually saw that, I thought, actually that might be a real good machine for Trev to plug in and have sitting behind your TV and actually as a little gaming sort of machine to what's your thoughts on things like that?
They probably would be much use to me now because obviously I could just get a handheld gaming PC like a Steam Deck or an Asus, and if I want to plug it into the telly, I can do that, and it'll probably have the similar performance to a tiny form factor gaming PC, except the advantage of I can hold it in my hand and play it, at any point. I'm not restricted to needing a screen connected. So obviously they'll be a bit cheaper than a handheld gaming PC because you have to account for a screen is attached to it and various other things need to be done to make a handheld that add on price. But no, I mean I don't really have any use for any kind of a console or dedicated sort of system that will plug into a screen. I'm happy to pay the premium that you have to pay for it to be a handheld. But I mean, it's honestly, this isn't really a new thing for me. It goes all the way back to being a kid. I mean, my first games console was a handheld, a Game Boy. So I've always been in love with handhelds generally. And there was a point when the PSP was my main console when I first moved to London, because I couldn't bring all my stuff down at that point. I had a triple PS triple that I couldn't bring down at the time for a while. So the PSP was my main gaming machine, and that was great. I loved it. I still do. And I've always loved like handhelds. So now we've got some people say, no, it's the first ever time that you can play kind of AAA games that are kind of the same era as the main consoles that you plug into your TV. That's not quite true. I mean, you could argue that maybe the PSP might have been. Well, you can go all the way back to the Turbo Express. That's literally, you could play the same games as a home console could of the same era. But after that, you're probably looking at something like, okay, you got Sega Nomad, but the Mega Drive was on its way out at that point, so maybe not. Probably is the PSP, is where you could say it was pretty much near the level of a PS2, while the PS2 was still the main console. And the Vita, that was within the sort of touching distance of a PS3, wasn't it? Really?
Exactly.
Obviously, they'd get nudged down again when like the PS3 come out, and that will obviously make the PSP not look as good, and the PS4 came out, which meant the Vita was not quite as up to date. But really now we're looking at, I mean, you can run like current gen exclusive games on a Steam Deck or an Asus. I mean, I'm hoping they do struggle on a Steam Deck, but I'm hoping that the Asus there's just that extra little bit of horsepower to bring you within that PS5 kind of touching distance. So those games are kind of playable. I'm not saying they're going to be best settings. You have to drop everything down to low and probably cap it at 30 frames. but that's fine if you're playing on a handheld. It's kind of amazing, actually. And yeah, I think probably the sort of second or third generation of these things after what we've just seen with the Asus and the Steam Deck, they'll probably be literally like, this is actually a PS5 now. You can play these games at the same level that you can on those, huge, big consoles that you plug into your TV. So that's where I hope it's going to go. Yeah. To answer your question, no is the answer. But actually, I need to ask you.
I can't remember what the question was.
We were going to ask you some stuff. You kind of trailed off on it quite a lot there, but it's an interesting discussion. But what I want to know is, so you got your PC. I mean,
yes.
Did you already have? I know you obviously. I think you've had little bits of gaming PC type things. Maybe you've repurposed old PCs to maybe have a few old games on and stuff. I don't think you've ever gone full on into it.
No,
obviously you had your Steam
I've always
Deck.
had. I mean, my gaming history is very much similar to yours. Is in the 90s, I went from an Amiga to a PC. I mean, you didn't really have gaming PCs then. You had a computer.
Yeah, exactly.
They could just play games automatically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone really bought until the late 90s, maybe in the mid 90s when we were sort of young. No one bought them just to play games on. It was kind of an extra bonus.
Oh, no. I disagree with that. They bought them just to play games, but they didn't have anything that was dedicated. It was all about the processor.
Yeah, I mean, like a Commodore Amiga. A Commodore Amiga someone would buy just for games, like an IBM, a 486 PC. I don't know anybody that had them, well, some people who are really rich probably did, but generally they weren't meant for gaming as a primary thing.
I think when I got my first computer, it was probably sort of for gaming. And
when was that?
That was 97, 98, maybe.
Yeah, I would say around that time was when that really started. Yeah, that'd be a fair point. I think early 90s, definitely not. But yeah, when we got to like Quake 2 and Unreal Tournament and those sort of games got big, people would just buy them just to play that. Yeah.
But I think what my point is that before that, you didn't really have anything that was a dedicated gaming hardware. It was later when you started to get the, now someone will contradict me here, but there was, 3DFX graphics cards and Voodoo graphics cards and all these sort of different graphics cards started to come out and then to start to really be sort of utilized. And that was the kind of sort of I guess the heyday where I did have a gaming computer, years on from that, and I can't remember which graphics cards I had, but I certainly spent money on a graphics card, to try and get sort of the most performance out of my sort of gaming computer, and I was really quite sort of into it then. But I think for one reason or another, I sort of moved to sort of console gaming. And for me, it was, well, if I got a computer, I'll get a laptop or something that's small in size, because a laptop, you can look on the internet and you can do that with a PC, but that's really what I wanted it for. And actually gaming, I went down the other route of going, well, I'm doing my gaming on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360. This is where I want to do my gaming. And I think in recent years, I've sort of been on the, a PC. It's just really a laptop, somewhere I can go to, browse the interwebs or, do some video editing or, do some online banking. That's where a PC, or do the podcast. That's where the PC's been for me. But I've always been very interested in it. And, probably for the last 5 years, I always like watching like Linus Tech Tips, and I've always known what computer to go out and buy, but then it's going to actually, it's a bit expensive, or there might be another one down the line. And then, of course, lockdown came and the price of graphics cards went through the roof. So I was actually, oh no, well, I'm not going to buy one because, I've got an Xbox Series X now, and they're pretty good for gaming, obviously. So that's what they do. So actually getting a PC, I think probably for myself in the last maybe 3 to 6 months has actually become quite affordable. And so I thought, well, actually, yeah, now's the time. And so yeah, I went and got myself a gaming PC. A company up in Middlesbrough called Advanced Systems. They're always sort of talked about on a certain Facebook group. Everyone's, oh yeah, get it from Advanced Systems. They're really good. So for some reason,
Football Grounds group.
Not the Lost Football Grounds group,
okay.
but you know, I was going to get one from Leeds, because Leeds they would have done it a bit bigger and better.
Yeah. More coup de cours.
More coup de cours from anything from Leeds has more coup de cours. But basically, yes, I went there, and they seem to have a good deal on their website, so I ordered it. A week later, it turned up, and honestly, you know, I've watched enough of Linus Tech Tips, and
is it a big old thing, or is it kind of medium
big thing? It's all the flashing lights, and it's and my only complaint.
Where is it set up then? Where is it set up? Is it, you just got it in your living room, or have you got like a nerd?
No.
Now,
it's in the spare room.
Okay.
So we've set that up now as like a proper sort of office, and it's just hidden under the desk. But my only complaint about it is that the guy on the phone told me I could turn off all the crazy flashing lights, because it's you
don't want to do that. It's gaming.
No,
isn't it?
well,
everyone wants flashing lights.
You know, you're absolutely right, but you can only sort of turn them down to sort of 20% of their flashiness,
right?
And I sort of don't like all the flashing lights.
Kind of ruins the session of Dead Space, doesn't it? When you're walking down a very dark, evil corridor, and you've got fluorescent crap going on
underneath your desk. But yeah, so I've managed to turn off most of the lights, but just with the button on the top. But it's honestly, it's all the cables are hidden. It's built. It was packaged really well, and you know, I turned it on. All the drivers were all updated. There wasn't any sort of problems or anything with it. You know, and
what sort of graphics card did you get?
I went for a 4070.
Oh, cool!
NVIDIA. Yeah, NVIDIA 4070, and it's got an AMD processor, 16 gig of RAM, an NVMe M2 storage. So it's on the website. It was about £1,000, but I could have bought one on there that was £4,000. But this one is, you know, I want to do gaming at 1440p. I'll be honest with you, it's that's sort of like the level I want it to be. So I didn't want to spend more than that, and maybe I'll update it over time. I'm sure I will update it over time. But yeah, so that's it really.
Did you like when you sort of got it going? Have you downloaded all the various stores, or have you just really only got games in Steam at the moment? Or
EA Play, so I signed into my Steam account, and I've downloaded a few bits and pieces from there that I own sort of years ago, from probably sort of 10 years ago, and then I put on Xbox Game Pass, because I've got that, of course, on my Xbox. So I downloaded a few games from there. The Epic Game Store, I've installed that as well, and so I've just really sort of gone through those and just sort of downloaded a few games that I've had for free. So I haven't actually gone out of my way to download anything. Gone, oh, actually, I want to buy that game. I'm looking at sort of Diablo 4 next month potentially. Yeah, so at the moment it's just going back through, and I think it's, since I got it sort of Thursday or Friday of last week, it's what I've been playing the most is actually been City Skylines, and
cool.
just because it's almost like, well, all the first person games, well, I've done most of those on my Xbox, and so it's actually the, you know, the mouse and keyboard sort of, I don't know what they call, not real-time strategy, but, you know, city building games.
You
know, stuff that you can't play on a console, because it doesn't work very well with a controller, but it does work really well, with a mouse and keyboard. And these were the types of games that, I've always talked about, my love of, Settlers. Back in the day, I used to play Age of Empires 2 all the time, SimCity 2000. These were games that I play for hours, Football Manager games. And these are the type of things that don't translate very well to consoles. So it's actually really good to, I'm looking forward to getting back and exploring this type of game that potentially I've sort of missed out on 10 years of them, or maybe 15 years of that type of game. So I'm sort of going, oh, maybe I brought a too powerful graphics card and to play City Skylines, but I'm gonna have fun with it. I won't need to change it for years.
Yeah, I mean, if obviously you gamed a lot on the Xbox and like PlayStation, there's going to be games that are now obviously PlayStation release games on the PC, and you might think to yourself, well, I probably would rather now play that on the PC, because something like, I know, Forza Motorsport, I could potentially have it run at a better, higher resolution, higher frame rate than what the Xbox would be able to deliver. Same with wanted to sort of play, Uncharted 4, because I missed out on it really on the PS4 when it came out. Well, now I could just get the PC version. I can run it at a higher resolution, higher frame rate. And there's things like, a lot of those sort of console port games. It was kind of a bit difficult to play those back in the day, like talking about really like the 90s and even going into the 2000s. Because the control schemes were always a bit messed up. There wasn't standardized joypad and things like that in those days.
Well,
now it is,
That's a really valid point, Trev. And actually, I've been playing. I moaned about Atomic Heart or Hearts or whatever it's called, and so that was on Game Pass. So I did install that, and actually I put it onto easy. Just because, hold on, I'm using a mouse and keyboard, the first time in, years. And I'm actually, it's trying to learn how to control the games again. If that makes sense.
The great thing is you've already got controllers that will work on your PC, like the Xbox controller that will just connect. So you could just sync it to your
No, 100%. I've done that, and that's it. That's sitting in front of me. But it's almost like, well, I want to play with a mouse and keyboard because you get more control over it. But at the moment, I'm in that place where I'm actually not very good at it.
So I never really bothered to try and get good at that. For one,
no,
the sort of games that I play are more console experiences. I mean, I do play SimCity and things like that, and I'll get it. But that's not really a game where you're controlling a bloke running around with a gun. It's just like clicking things in a menu. You need to really be trained in that, unless you've never used a computer before in your life. So yeah, I basically 99% of the stuff I play on PC, I just play with a joypad. I know you could be like loads more accurate with a keyboard and a mouse, but it's not really I'm not a competitive gamer. I don't really play online multiplayer, so I'm not going to really have that benefit. And I just like holding a controller just in my hand and just playing a game with it.
No, Trevor, I 100% agree with you. And I think I've got the controller here. It's sitting in front of me because, FIFA 23 is now available on Xbox Game Pass. So I've downloaded that. And then you actually said an interesting thing there about Forza. So I might go and get, Forza Horizon 5 or Forza sort of Motorsport, the new one that's coming out later in the year potentially, and that'd be absolutely brilliant with the controller. But I think when it comes down to first person shooters, I with a controller I am not very good on an Xbox, and playing online I get shot a lot more than I actually kill people, but it does feel a lot more natural to me, and I like doing, we talked before about, like doing stories on games, and actually I think that's where I want to be. I don't want to be able to jump up and spin round 3 times and shoot people all over the shop on Fortnite. That I'm not looking to get there. I just want it to feel a little bit more intuitive, and that's where I want to be. And I used to obviously sort of play Quake and Quake 3 Arena all those years ago, and so I knew, well, actually, I can do it. So it's just getting back into it, which is a little bit of a challenge, and I expect I'll be playing a lot of games on easy and things like that, just to make sure that just get practice in, then change the level up a little bit and on these games. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's good fun.
Yeah, the good thing is you've got the flexibility now to go either way. If you want to if you want to use a keyboard and a mouse on a game, you can. Which I know you kind of can on some consoles. I think they do support keyboard and mouse really, but it's kind of an afterthought really. Whereas obviously the PC, it's easy to jump between them. Have you tried setting up any emulators or anything of that?
No,
Does that interest you?
I haven't, but that's another thing. I mean, what we're recording this on Monday, and I got it on Thursday, so it's for me is the PC is I've always sort of touched upon it, but there's so many games that I've missed. There are things that are coming out. When you see things on Twitter saying, "Oh, I've just released this new game. It's out on Steam, is out on PC. You can download it here." And it's to play a lot more of these sort of interesting games that maybe I haven't touched upon before, and then also the retro side of things, because I've always sort of found it in the back of my head ridiculous how people would, I don't know, the Dreamcast is really good because you can mod it to play Mega Drive games. My head is blown. What is the point? What is the point? It'll be the worst experience ever, and you've got to you've got to faff around doing this, doing that, faffing around. And I'd actually just like to go to speak to yourself, Trev. Go, well, actually, what's the best way to play a certain type of retro game on a PC? And go, oh yeah, you need to go here, download this proper bit of software, do this, and it's all there. It's all legal as much as it can be, and actually it's designed for the PC environment, not trying to play Doom on a fridge. It's
I'd
play it where you're meant to play it.
I would probably say if it was something you were going to dip into, if you do get bothered about it, is say you sort of prefer to play them on the actual things. But you could get yourself like a RetroArch sort of setup. But you've touched upon it already. Like it's not like sort of a one and done thing. Obviously, you've got to sort all the ROMs, and obviously you can go into the corners of the internet to find those. Too difficult, really. But you'll be able to do that, and then get yourself download RetroArch, which in itself is free. But once you're inside RetroArch, you can download the various cores. Within, you can use it. You can like navigate all of this with a controller. You haven't got to go nuts with the keyboard and the mouse. You can download all the cores for all the consoles that you want to play, and you've got the ROMs for. It gets a little bit messy when you're dealing with systems that are like have BIOSes, and when you get to like sort of CD consoles and beyond, that's where you kind of need to get BIOS files. And so they won't just work by just, you got a ROM, play the ROM, bang, you're there like you can with like a NES or a Super Nintendo game. And you need to sort of find those on the internet somewhere, and you grab them, and then you got to put them in a very specific folder in like the RetroArch, like install wherever you've installed it to, and then hopefully RetroArch will pick it up and you can run the ISO of the CD game. So it does get a little bit messy when you get to the newer stuff, but also you can overcome it. But it's time consuming.
I don't really mind that side of things, because it's kind of what you expected, and I'm quite good for I've got two screens here because we use it for an office as well to work when we work from home, but. So I can have one screen or instructions on how to do this, download that, and I quite enjoy putting, almost sort of doing little projects like that. And Trevor, I know I can always reach out to you and go, how do I do this? And
it's probably the downloading of the ROMs might take longer than the actual setting up, I would say, definitely, especially if you one day might be like, right, I really want to just get all the PlayStation games. That's going to be like, a few hundred gigabyte. So you'd have to sort of, leave it running for a day or two or something in the background.
Mm.
That would take longer than it would take. I mean, to get that running, you just get the PlayStation BIOS file, dump it in the folder in RetroArch, and you're kind of done. And then you just get the ROMs, so all the ISOs, yeah.
Trev, another quick question. Do you know when you go to now, is this a scenario that could possibly work? So if I went to, I don't know, CEX or a charity shop and you see an old PC game, and I got a DVD drive that I could USB, plug into the back of my computer.
Yeah.
As long as you've got the disc and it's got the CD key written in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Could you install it on a Windows 11 PC? Is that doable or?
In theory, yes. It really depends on how old the game is. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're looking at a game pre sort of 2010, it's likely that you'll get the game. It's got the disc in it, and there's the CD key. But there's also CD keys that come with a game that once they've been redeemed once, that's it, because they connect to an online server. They check if it's been redeemed. If it hasn't, great. And there's even situations where you'll get a game like this. I remember I got Metal Gear Solid: The Phantom Pain for the PC, and inside the case there was just one DVD. And I was like, well, this is clearly not the whole game, and it wasn't. And it turned out that all it was, and the key that was in there was just you just put that into Steam, and it then downloads the game from Steam. I didn't even bother putting the DVD in the end, because I thought, well, it's just going to download everything anyway. I guess it might have saved me a bit of time, because it might read it fast, and then my download would do it. But so there's that scenario where the key that's included might just be to download the game from Steam, and there's some of the data on the DVD that you can use to install a bit of the game. That's more near the end of the era of because the thing with PC is you don't really get games on DVD now, and it's probably been like that for a good 6-7 years. I mean, FIFA, you can't get that. You can go by. I do see like in Argos, you can get PC games, but they're just a code in a box. There's no disc at all. So really already, but when you got to about 2014, 15, when I really got into PC gaming full time, it was already becoming rare. Probably the last big game that I got a physical copy of, it would have been like, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, I think. It's a shame, because something like Grand Theft Auto 5, I've got the PC version, physical version of that. And that came in a beautiful, like, sort of almost like a DVD box set, which you had to, because it came on like 8 DVDs. And even that wasn't the whole install. I had to download stuff after that. That was fun. If you went into a CEX, it's an old game, like Oblivion, sort of early Xbox 360 era and before, you'll probably be okay just to grab the game, stick it in your DVD drive, and put the key in, and it'll install. After that, you might want to check. You kind of need to get the game sealed, because the keys probably. I think CEX do check this, and they won't accept it if it's a game that they know that the key would have been redeemed on. You might want to check it, like something like Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition on the PC, which came out in like 2012. So it's in that weird near the end of the era of PC DVDs being common, but it probably just uses the serial key to download the game, and you've got a disc to help you install it. So if you bought that, you've just got a bunch of coasters, basically. The key won't help you.
So I think the idea is be very careful.
I would say that the best thing to do is to go on a place like PC Game. Actually, this is the best place, PC Gaming Wiki. And on there, you can actually, it tells you the different versions of a PC game that are available, whether it was a digital thing on Steam or a mixture, whether you can get a copy on Origin, you can get a copy on Steam, you can get a physical copy in a shop. And it will tell you what the deal is with the key that comes with the DVD. Is it just a key to unlock the game on Steam? Or is it a key that's just for that disc? So you can reuse the key over and over again. Or if there's weird stuff with like, you might find as well, there's a lot of jank with old games. I've touched upon it before on here. A good example that I've mentioned before is like Grand Theft Auto 4 on the PC. That has a physical copy that you can buy. I think you can still buy sealed copies of it on like Amazon. and that's got a few weird things that you have to deal with. It's kind of was around the Vista / early Windows 7 era. So it's kind of looking for those operating systems. You can sort of force it to work from the disk by basically there's a compatibility mode you can run that pretends Windows is Windows 7 or Vista.
Trev, I think you put me off it now.
Yeah. There's other weird stuff with that game. That is just the tip of the iceberg. Like apparently it checks when you put the disc in, it checks that the date of your PC is past the release date of the game, and then it'll install it. For several years that worked fine, but since then it's kind of broken. So it can't check the date, so it doesn't know what it won't say, oh, you can't install this game, that you have to wait till next month or something. So there's workarounds, but to be honest, something like Grand Theft Auto 4 isn't actually a problem. You can buy it on Steam, and Rockstar have actually updated the game to remove all of that kind of jank out, and it just works in a straight up way. The annoyance with PC gaming is the multiple stores and multiple launchers. You could buy FIFA 23 on Steam, and it'll download through Steam, and you'll double click the icon, thinking either within your Steam library or on your desktop, thinking it'll just go zoom you straight through to the game. But it doesn't. It has to log into EA. So you have to have an EA account. So you have to log into Steam and then log into... You'll be logged into Steam already, but you log into Steam, you log into EA. Hopefully the servers are up for you to do that. And then once you've done that, you land on another launcher, which is the game itself launcher, which says, do you want to play it? Do you want to change the graphics settings? Do you want to sort of review the license agreement? So you just want to hit play there. So you've got to jump through kind of 2 loops already just to get to the start of the game. That's just one example, though. They're not, a lot of games will just run straight through. You double click, bang, you're at the title screen after a loading period. But it does get messy when it gets messy when you buy a game like on Steam, but it's from one of the big third parties like Ubisoft have their own launcher, Epic have their own launcher, EA have their own launcher. That's when it gets a bit messy. Weirdly though, I got the old original Dead Space was on sale on Steam. And I thought, I might grab that because it's kind of a cool game to try and go. I mean, I've completed it a billion times, but I wanted to play it. It'd be cool to play it on a handheld. So I thought, sod it, I'll get it. It'll be in my library. I'm sure I'm going to give it a whirl in the coming years. So it'd be nice if it sat in my Steam library. Then I thought, is it going to want me to log into EA because it is an EA game? But it turns out it doesn't. It just goes straight through to the game from Steam.
Okay.
I don't know if it was because it's from 2008 and Origin wasn't a thing when it came out. Origin didn't start till about 2011, 12. So some of those sort of PS3, Xbox 360 era EA games are kind of okay. But yeah, certainly modern games, you're going to have to deal with the various launchers. And also the general jank that comes with Windows. You've got to do updates constantly, and they won't always do those, when you're not using it. That's going to swallow up a bit of the performance in your PC. It's not like that's the good thing about Steam OS on the Steam Deck. It doesn't have Windows, so it hasn't got weird background tasks to check the weather and to get all those stupid little widgets that Windows has now, or to run like Windows Defender scanning and all that stuff that needs to happen in the background. Which it's fair enough. It does that because it's a general purpose operating system. Hopefully, at some point they'll look at Steam. I think they already are. I've already seen that there was kind of that Microsoft were experimenting with a handheld gaming PC version of Windows, which is minimal and just will have a bunch of tiles for the games you've got installed, and you can just go straight into your games like on Steam OS. Hopefully they'll make that and release it because that'll be awesome.
I mean, to me, that's something that's that's really. I'm talking about the Dreamcast again, but what was that Windows CE or something?
Yeah.
And if they did just a version of Windows that
a minimal version,
I don't even know what I'm saying here, but just had DirectX 12 or whatever the latest one was just there to play games and none of the other.
Yeah, you can go into a minimal version of Windows when you boot up your gaming PC, and then I want to do my taxes now. You can then flip it to the full desktop version. We've got regular Windows and all the jank that comes with it. There's also little things that, I mean, obviously you can't do a suspend and resume like you can on a console, which is kind of cool, especially very cool to be able to do that on a Steam Deck. You know, you're midway through a game, you want to go make a cup of tea, turn it off, do it, come back, turn it on, bang, you're right back there. Can't really do that on a PC. Like when your battery runs out on like your Xbox controller, it won't pause the game and do an overlay saying you got to change your batteries like a console. The game will just keep playing and it will think you've switched to your keyboard. So you got to pause it, you know, some way before you can switch your batteries out. And things like I've had things where I'm playing a game, right, in full screen, completely immersed in it, and Windows will drop me back to the desktop to tell me, oh, tomorrow it's going to be sunny, because I forgot to turn off like notifications on some crap that I've got. So yeah, I mean, it's always a good idea to run something like PCD Crapifier when you first get a new PC running, because that will get rid of a lot of the bloatware that the manufacturer installs, and free trials of God knows, you know, McAfee's security or something, and you know, some of the gamer extra crap that they think you want, like you know. So yeah, there's just the general Windows, it not being a dedicated gaming thing, jankiness that it adds to your gaming experience, but you know, none of it is really big enough to put you off, I don't think. Also, there are some people just like, I just want to.
Any of this is really causing.
Go on, yeah.
Any of this is really sort of causing problems, or you know, any sort of surprises to me. And if in fact it's everything seems a lot easier than when it was when I sort of left PC gaming all those years ago.
Oh yeah, it would be, yeah.
And you know, I remember sort of, you know, me and a friend, you know, literally trying to spend a day trying to, you know, get a sound card to work, or trying to get a modem working and working out COM ports. And you know, you think of all the things that you used to do, and now it's you know, you're describing it as, oh, it's really difficult. You have to load up 3 game you know, stores, and compared to I think what you used to have to do, it's actually it's a hell of a lot easier. And
I mean, really, like, you buy a game on whatever launcher, like Steam, obviously we keep going back to because it's the best one. You double click it, it downloads it for you, installs it for you, it runs it. And these days, games are pretty good with detecting controllers, and so you can be sat there with your controller. I mean, you can even run, you know, if you're completely happy to sort of live kind of within Steam, you can have it so that your PC boots into Steam big picture mode. So if you've got, which is basically like almost like a Steam Deck like interface. It does kind of break fairly quickly when you maybe asked for you to type something in a game or something else. You've got to break out your keyboard, and you can't just do it all from a controller. But you can have a pretty good console experience. And there's people like Eta Prime on YouTube who basically he gives a lot of tutorials on putting SteamOS on a PC, because it's not just meant for the version you get on the Steam Deck is a special customized version of SteamOS. General SteamOS has been around for quite a while and is still around, and you can install it on a PC, and you've basically got a dedicated gaming OS that will run the games that work via Proton and have Linux native versions. You can just if you don't want to throw Windows away completely, you can in theory, and just install SteamOS. I couldn't do that because, again, you'd have the issues with Game Pass, which is very Windows centric and probably always will be. I don't think like Phil Spencer's getting his team to make them all run on Linux. You know, I don't think he's going to ever do that. I'm hoping that Valve make a version of SteamOS for the Ally, or to make it more, you know, have a version that you can install on anything and have it run really as well as it does on the Steam Deck. I don't mean the regular Steam OS. I mean, like, you know, the Steam Deck gaming, you know, interface OS. That would be great. Maybe they'll do that in the future, and that'll make PC gaming, you know, literally like playing an Xbox. Because the template is there already, isn't it? Really, with the Steam Deck. But yeah.
No, it's interesting, and I'm sort of quite excited about sort of the journey of you know, discovering all these new games and you know, things like that. And
you'll probably be like me as well. You might end up diving into, like, there's a lot of times when There was a game I was playing on the PS3 back in the day, and it ran like crap. And I was like, oh, there was a PC version of that. I can now run it at like, I can upscale it to 1080p and beyond and play it at 60 frames like Ghostbusters or something, the video game, or Star Wars Force Unleashed, or, a game from that era. That might be something that you might get into. A lot of those games you could just buy off Steam for like a couple of quid. I mean, there's that as well. There's the savings that you're going to make. Wait for the Steam sale, or just use a site like a key place that can get you a cheap key for a game.
Exactly.
Some of them are a little bit shady, but legit ones like CD keys. You can get a game that on the Switch is like 50 quid still. The PC version will be like $5. So it's a no-brainer, really, and that's something you have access to with.
So I think what I've seen, obviously, I've looked through all these stores, and you see something is quite funny. It's either $2.99 or $59.99.
Yeah.
and it's right. You don't get anything in between, and people always talk about, there's this brilliant sales they have on these games. I'm like, okay, yeah, great. That's really good, but I don't know. It's sometimes you look on there and you go, I want that game, and if it's not in a sale, it's a lot of money, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Especially when you realise they're not paying a licensing fee like to Sony or Microsoft. I know they're taking a hit putting it on Steam, because Steam obviously take a chunk of that. But it's a bit cheeky to charge like 60 quid for a PC version of a game, I think. There should be 40 really, or 50 at most. But normally you can wait 6 months and it will probably have at least a tenant knocked off it. Put it in your wish list if it's something you think you're going to grab at some point in whatever store you're looking to get it in. Again, Steam is the example I'm going to keep using. Put it in your wish list and you'll get an email to say, Resident Evil 4 remake. It was 70 quid, now 30. And you better jump on it. There's so much you'll play in the meantime. I'm sure you're not going to be gagging for a single game. And we've talked about it before that we don't even buy FIFA when it comes out now. We just know it's going to be out it's going to be part of Game Pass in 9 months. I don't mind playing a slightly out of date FIFA for a while. So I'd better that than paying 70 quid for it. So yeah,
that's it. I've been I don't know, it's completely off topic, but I bought from a charity shop FIFA 14 on the Xbox One, and I'm sitting there, playing match after match. I think, I don't know, I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah. But you get the PC version.
Yeah, well, I've downloaded the PC version of FIFA 23, but not really got too into that yet. But I'm sure I will.
I mean, there are things as well, like Digital Foundry have obviously helped shine a light on this a lot. The downsides, there are some issues with PC ports at the moment. We're having lots of shader compilation stutter, or just being quite bad in a PC ports being in a bad shape when they launch. I don't know if you've really experienced that. Have you been buying like The Last of Us Part 1 and anything along those lines?
No, I really wouldn't do that. It's to me, The Last of Us is a console game, and I'd rather play that on the console. It's I think there'd be for me, there's still a home for the Xbox or the Switch and things like that. And I'll probably, if you ask me in 6 months' time, Stuart, what have you done most of your gaming on? And I'll go, oh, actually, it's probably been 50% on my Xbox, 15% on, the Switch, and 35% on the gate on my PC. But I think a lot of it would be, it's. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna give up my life to playing City Skylines. That's what it feels like the last few days.
Well, you're going to struggle with Gears of War. You're going to struggle with Gears of War, I'm afraid, Stu. I know you like those games. We only got the first one and the latest one on the PC. So 2 and 3.
What about 4?
4 was on it. I think 4 was on PC.
Yeah.
So 2 and 3, you're going to have to jump back onto the older 360 for that. I guess actually you could play it on a PC, couldn't you? Just do the Xbox Game Pass xCloud. You could stream those, I think. So if you want like 10 minutes of lag on every button press, you could do it on a PC.
Well, that sounds good.
Sounds appealing, doesn't it? Wow, well, that's like we've flown through that hour, Stu. So, a final thought, maybe? Would you recommend the jump as someone that has been mainly console for the last few years?
Yeah, I think maybe I'm so far I'm really enjoying it, and
Cool.
but I think for someone to and I think what's interesting in PC gaming is if you've just got a 1080p monitor, you can buy these days a computer for £400-500 or maybe £350, and play around with the settings as well and have an absolutely great experience, especially if you think, oh, I'm going to put this together myself, and you can work on it. It's not something, oh, PC gaming, you have to spend £4,000 and get a 4090 Ti and a 13 Gen i9. That you certainly don't have to do that. That's nowhere near what I've done. It's just there is hopefully I think I found sort of a sweet spot, and this is taking a bit of time, and I've gone for this, and I think go for it with sort of PC gaming. And even if you do that on a laptop, and there are plenty of games that can just work with onboard graphics absolutely fine. And I'd say go for it. Jump in, and it's a great way to get into gaming and everything like that.
I agree. And Stu, where can you find us on the interwebs?
That's a really good question.
You
can find us on consoleshock.net, our website. And you can find us on the Facebooks, Console Shock. You can find us on YouTube, Console Shock. And you can find us on all of the podcast clients. And we're now, I think we're on, I may have mentioned this before, we're now on Amazon Podcasts.
Wow.
So you can check us out on there. So check us out.
Check us out, indeed. We're on all the catchers now. So
yes.
Thanks for listening, as always. And we hope to see you in the next one. Take care.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.